and Lori and Julie and Eric and myself. So I am going to call the Town of Bridgewater Finance Committee to order at 6:30 p.m. And our first item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments? And if we do, I ask that you state your name and your street address, please. Any public comments? Okay. So we'll move on. We have quite a few things on the agenda this evening. One thing, I mentioned that email I sent to everybody earlier that we will be having a budget subcommittee meeting and a finance committee subcommittee joint meeting on the 22nd. And then on the 26th of the month, we will have a budget subcommittee and a full finance committee joint meeting to discuss the budget for 2022. So once we get to that part of the business this evening, Tony will give us an overview of it. And certainly we can ask some questions, but what I would ask is while Tony's thinking about it, and you have time to process it, that you'll send questions to me and we can dig into them deeper at the two meetings in the future. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And the first thing for business tonight is FY21-032 loan order, loan authorization, Curve Street water main. Tony, what can you tell us about this?
Yes, it's a project that's going to be funded by water revenue.
I can't hear you, Tony.
It's
up. Can you hear me?
I can.
I can hear you both, Tony and Nate. I can hear you both.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So you just heard everything I said?
I did, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. So there's some part of the water capital improvement program that's for their water lines is going to address approximately 1,600 linear feet of piping on Curve Street. Now, the good thing is we're also receiving some grant funds for this project. We also got a quote, a bid that was much less than we thought. However, it doesn't include the finished paving. So we feel that the $979,000 will be more than adequate. And like I said, it'll either be funded partially and we won't have to borrow this full amount because of the grant and because of the lower quotes or bids, we should be able to expend significantly less. So when it comes time to borrow, we feel that it'll have a minimal impact on the water user rates.
All right, do we have any questions for Tony on this one?
I just have a quick one for Tony. Tony, I assume that the water revenue across the town is going to pay this, right? This isn't specific to one neighborhood paying for it or anything like that, right? It's a
that is correct. That is absolutely correct.
Thank
you. And this work would have had to been done with or without the new housing estates back there, correct?
Well, again, it's a housing choice initiative. So it's one of these programs where it's good for the town, it's good for the developer, and we're able to fund a portion of this through state grant money as a result of that partnership.
Oh, so the loop, okay, I see what's happening there, because that road is one big semicircle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there any other questions from anybody about this? Comments? No? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Eric.
Second, Julie.
Thank you both. Josh, can you do a roll call, please?
Nathan.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Leah.
Aye.
Chris. Aye.
Susie?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right, thank you, everyone. The next order of business is FY 21-033, acceptance of a gift from the Howard Foundation for the COA. Tony?
Just so your body knows that by law, the town must accept, the town council must accept any gift or grant. So that's why you see these. So when in this case, these senior center or the elderly affairs director is seeking out these grants, she does so on behalf of the seniors, and the grant that she's or gift she's asking for requires that she fills out appropriate documentation and requests to, in this case, it is the, the Howard Foundation. And so she gets the right set up. She sends it to the Howard Foundation, and they approve this amount for the programs that she's going to use it for. This just allows the town to accept that $10,000 so that she can use it for in which it was intended, and it's to benefit the seniors.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Anybody have any questions for Tony on this one?
Yeah, it's Julie. I just have one. You say that they can use it as it's to be needed. So is there any oversight? Like who oversees it once, like when she applies for it, is it supposed to be allocated to a certain area? And then if so, who keeps track after that?
Okay, the way any grant works is the individual who's requesting the grant, who has authorization to expend that, will have to expend it within the conditions of the grant or the gift. Okay. Yep. So those are typically under all cases. They're documented in the award letter. Perfect. So in this case, who has authority is the Elder Affairs Director, and in fact, we account for any grants in the general fund, and Laurie will segregate these funds separately. Excuse me, outside the general fund, we will segregate these in a special fund for this purpose.
Okay, thank you.
And good question, Julie, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, I will entertain a motion for FY 21-033.
Julie, make the motion to accept the gift for the Howard Foundation.
Susie seconds.
Okay, Josh, if you can give us a roll call, please.
Nate?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Leah?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Susie? Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is FY 21-034, acceptance of a grant, MAPC Transportation Partnership Grant. Tony, take it away.
Yeah, and again, as I just explained, this is what you'd be doing, allowing the town to accept this. And this spells it out pretty clearly. MAPC through the Taxi, Livery, and Hackney Transportation Partnership Grant Program, which is part of the Mass Development State Agency. It allows the Office of the Elder Affairs, our director, to expend these funds. And for what this really is a transportation service where a senior can call and this grant will pay for them and their transportation to a doctor's, CVS, Walmart, shopping. It's an outreach to allow free transportation for elders.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Does anybody have any questions for Tony?
Yeah, Julie again. Tony, I appreciate that. And I think that's wonderful they have that. Do you know if there's a reason why Bridgewater is not part of like a ride program or a GATA or something along those lines, like, or Bat Bus, you know, some of the other towns that do have public transportation that doesn't really require a grant to do it?
I don't know that we're not part of that. So I won't speak
Or are
to
we?
that.
I guess, so are we? And if not, you know what I mean? Why not?
I think this is in addition. So for instance, the senior center, the elder affairs director, we have a van, and we offer transportation, but at a cost, a part-time driver. This just allows for more flexibility.
Okay.
I believe that there is public transportation that runs through Bridgewater, through the BAT service, but I don't want to speak to that.
Okay.
And this is just, from what it's been explained, is much more flexible for the elders.
Thank you.
Yeah, matter of fact, BAT gifted a van bus. And this also is going to help with the COVID.
Less shared rides and that kind of a thing.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything for Tony on this one?
Motion to approve, Chris.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Second, Eric.
Okay, Josh, roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. FY 21-035, acceptance of a gift. Claremont Lakeside gift for tree planting.
So yes, so it's an acceptance of a gift, and the purpose is some trees were removed as part of the work that was done, and this is a gift back to the town. So those trees, not those trees particularly, but an equal amount of trees could be planted to offset what was removed during the construction. This allows the town to spend that money as they see fit.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Does anybody have a question for Tony on this one?
Nope.
All right. Personally, I'd like to see that they're replacing what they took out in the first place. If nobody has a question, any more questions on this, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Josh, roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Yes.
Susie.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, next one is FY 21-036. It's a transfer order. Elm Street Capital Fund replenishment. Tony, please.
Yes, so what we're doing here, when you first begin a project such as the Elm Street project, that whole reconstruction, repaving, the initial engineering costs are typically funded from your capital stabilization fund. But once you do the engineering on a project like that, and if it is completed and then subsequently bonded, you can reimburse and or pay for, if you will, the $94,650 in this case from those bond proceeds. So this allows us to use the bond proceeds to take care of this cost and transfer back into the capital stabilization that initial appropriation. Probably was a couple years ago. So we're just trying to be mindful that we have available funds in a bond proceeds that funded that project. We can use those and we can replenish the capital stabilization fund with this order.
Yeah, I want to say it was a couple of years ago, right, Eric, if I remember correctly? Oh, you're talking to the, there you go.
Yep, it feels right. Yep.
All right, thanks. All right, does anybody have a question for Tony on this particular order?
How much proceeds is left? And if there is more, will this be the last of it, or is there more?
There's still some work to be done on the intersection. The project isn't completely closed, but we, based on our estimates, we believe that we will have enough to cover this $94,000. We anticipate a slight surplus, but any surplus due to a project that is funded by bond proceeds. And I think you also know we received a $3 million grant on this project. Can be used to pay down the debt or to be used for a similar project. We haven't gotten that far yet, but I'm comfortable that this 94,000 can be moved back into the capital stabilization.
And do we have an estimated completion date for the project or no?
Yeah, I think that center is going to be completed this spring.
Thank you.
That's the only part left is the intersection.
Okay.
Everything else is completed on the road.
Great, thank you.
What a transformation on that road.
I know.
Really, you know, it's so conducive for what it can be used for now. Anybody else have a question for Tony on this?
Nope.
Okay, if we have no more questions or discussions, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Second, Eric.
Second, Chris.
Okay, Josh, if you can do a roll call for us, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie. Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, our next one is FY 21-037 transfer order. CPC Parks and Recreation Pickleball Court Project. Tony.
Don't you have number 38?
Did I miss something?
Did I miss something?
Yeah, we just
okay.
Did.
That was me. I jumped ahead. Sorry about
Right,
that.
37 is pickle, 38 is something else.
Yeah. Sorry about that. The CPC has already approved the 112,250 to do the finishing work on the pickleball court project by the senior center. So all the documentation was forwarded to the CPC. I don't have it in my hand. They voted that last week. And this would just have you in concert agree with their recommendation from their funding source.
Now, these pickleball courts, they're open to everybody in town, right?
Yes, and they're going to have this really done well. There's a demand for it, and initially it was kind of thought that maybe there wasn't a big demand for it, and maybe we could do something. And that was a few years when we started to consider this project. But there's such demand now that they want to complete this in proper form, and this will do that.
Can you tell us where this is located?
Yes, it's going to be located by the senior center. To the right and slightly behind the senior center.
Yeah, I did drive back there, take a look, and that's where it's going to be. And I know that somebody also brought up the question, I think it was with this committee, but it might have been town council, that the Mitchell School will not impact these new courts either.
I think that was one of the reasons they kind of waited on really going forward with this whole project until Mitchell School was, some of the issues there for access would be sorted out.
Okay.
So will there be specific hours that it can be used, like or closed off or blocked off, like those basketball courts at Legion or anything like that, or just?
I do not. I'd be making it up. I don't have that.
Okay. Not that I'm taking up pickleball anytime soon or anything. I'm just curious.
Hey, as somebody that lives by Legion, I'll tell you the basketball courts never close.
Right.
So they know how to turn the lights on.
All right.
You know, I see an explanation. It says CPC recommendations. I don't know. I haven't seen them, but I do know that committee in the past, they do a very thorough job usually in the decision-making process.
I apologize for not making sure you have those documents, but yes, they gave this quite a deep level of consideration and required an extensive documentation from the Park and Rec, from our Director of Park and Rec.
So yeah, I saw in the town council's agenda from last week, all of that documentation is in there, and I was able to take a look. And there's quite a few emails from citizens that are interested in that. I guess my only question is, do we have an idea of what like the cost to maintain will be for this? Do we have a projection on that?
We don't. I think it's a real good question. I would say this: it is a quarter of the size of a tennis court. So if you had 3, you'd maybe have, I don't know, maybe 1.5 tennis courts. So yeah, there would be net maintenance and obviously asphalt crack repair and things of that nature. I think is a fair question. It would have to be built in the Park and Rec maintenance budget going forward.
Chris, just the kind of, I did hear Charlie Simons, the head of that department, speak, I don't know, about a month ago. And I know one thing he does bring into his calculations is, the total cost of ownership, so to speak, the maintenance cost.
Like the golf course.
Yeah. I know they were talking about adding another park. I think it was the Jenny Leonard, and he's like, listen, you have to budget for future maintenance, essentially. So I do know that he does take that into consideration.
And we have, just as a backdrop, over the last 3 years, I know what we've had is our maintaining of our recreational properties has been its own director and not necessarily connected under the charter's DPW structure. And you'll see in the budget, the town manager is moving forward and meeting the intention of the charter by moving forward with hiring a DPW director. And that's going to allow for coordination and allocation of resources more broadly. And based on my feeling and monitoring of the expenditures out of the highway, but if we look at it more of a DPW and some recreational maintenance, there should be enough, to your question, Chris, to maintain that facility.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Yeah, good question.
And I apologize. This is Susie. I apologize if I missed this earlier. What do we need to decide tonight on this, or what are we?
You're approving the transfer. So the CPC can only make a recommendation to council. They made a recommendation to council. Council refers it to the finance committee. The vote for the appropriation sits with the council with the recommendation of the finance committee and the recommendation of the budget and finance subcommittee.
And how much is it for?
It's on the document.
$112,000.
$112,000.
Sorry.
250. 112, 250.
And it's coming from the CPA fund. And it's the reserve for open space. It's an appropriate use under the laws that govern CPC projects.
This one, I'm just reacting to this one's a little bit odd because pickleball is a pretty niche sport. It doesn't have wide community appeal or access for many. It's not a huge amount, but it's a little odd for me. That's all.
There's a place in Pembroke I drive by all the time now, and they are opening their pickleball program starting this spring. I think it has more, I thought it was very niche, but I do see a broader, and the recreation director and the seniors see a good activity for more senior individuals.
So how will they advertise for that, Tony? Like, how will people know that it's out there to be used, and when will it be?
It will be done probably over the next 2.5 months, 3 months tops. If those who have subscribed, there's a daily broadcast, or excuse me, at least a weekly broadcast of happenings going on in Bridgewater. The senior group has a monthly letter. The website would have this, town website would have this on there. And I think the details of how this will all, flush out, who's going to coordinate assigning of times and use of
Right,
courts and
that
all
was
that.
where I was going with that.
I think that's being worked out now.
Thank you.
As a former pickleball champion at Normandy Farms, I will say that it is a fun sport to play, and I personally can't wait. Hopefully, to go down there. And just for reference a little bit too, I believe the last big one for the park and recreation were the lights for Legion Field, correct?
Yes.
And one can make an argument too that was fairly narrow a little bit because baseball uses them, but it's still. It's hard to find something, I guess, that appeals to everybody is my point.
I hear you. I've watched pickleball. Like, I watched my friends, like really sweat over it. It looks painful. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that painful, but we felt we were too old for it. But anyway.
It is a little easier than tennis, that's for sure. It's a little lower impact.
Yeah.
But it is a blast too, and it's cheap. All you gotta have is a couple of paddles and a ball, and you're in action.
Yeah.
With it. So, all right. Is there any other questions, comments? All right. So I'll entertain a motion on this order.
Motion to approve, Eric.
Susie seconds.
Roll call, please, Josh.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good questions. So moving on, our next one is FY 21-038. Oh, here we go. Transfer order completed CPC Legion Field fencing project. Tony.
So that project is complete. There's $885 a balance, and this is just to authorize the monies to be transferred back to the CPC.
Okay, easy enough. Any questions?
So I don't have any specific questions to this, more just, I guess, generally from my own knowledge. How often do we see things like this getting transferred back once a project's complete? Is it case by case basis pretty much?
It is case by case, but what Laurie's my right-hand person when it comes to special projects and grants, and she's monitoring them very closely to make sure that the intended use is in fact the use. And so she reviews them and monitors them, and then we'll notify the party that, okay, you have a surplus. If this is ready to be closed, then give the notice that the project's complete. So it's a protocol that we use. And it is a case-by-case basis, but it's typically those types of things, special appropriations or grants projects.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything going back, but.
Well, I make sure what belongs where it belongs.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, just on a CPC project. I don't know if I've ever seen it go back into the fund though. That's
yeah.
Curious. All right, do we have any questions?
Nope.
Motion to approve, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Second, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Josh, if we get a roll call, please.
Nate,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Leah,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. And the fund just keeps on coming here. We have FY 21-039 next. Acceptance of one-time revenue, Claremont Lakeside Viva for public safety. Tony?
So in the agreement that was reached with Claremont with the ZBA to get their comprehensive permit, there would be a one-time payment of $100,000 to offset the impact on public safety. So what we will do is we will, if this is approved, accept this. It will be deposited in its own special fund for public safety impact. and we will be using that as a funding source for some of the capital items for public safety, which you'll see coming up in the next week or so.
Okay. You answered my question with the end of that, Tony. Thank you. Does anybody have a question on this? Okay, and Tony, you did say it's going to go into its own account.
Absolutely, right? It goes to its own special fund. Yep.
And then the use of it obviously will go through Finance Committee, Town Council, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay.
It will require an additional appropriation.
There you go. Okay, any questions, anybody, comments? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion then.
Motion moved. Eric second.
Julie, or anybody.
Okay, we have a first and second. Was it Eric and Julie? And Josh, roll call, please.
Nate.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Leah.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I turned the page and we've actually have completed all our FY21 business for this evening, which is great. Thank you, everybody. There were some great questions there. A lot of it was informative. And now we're moving on to the FY 2022 annual town budget, and we have some enterprise funds here and everything else. Hello?
That was my daughter, Nate. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
He's making brownies in case you want to.
I thought somebody had something to say about the budget.
Nuts or no nuts?
Yeah, right. So like I mentioned in the beginning, there's no need for, to feel under pressure this evening. We are going to have at least 2 more meetings to discuss all these items that are here in front of us. And for right now, Tony is going to give us his input.
So, in speaking with Nate a little earlier, I really think what I might like to do now is just give a real broad brush statement, and then answer any questions that a new member might have, or that you would want me to delve into further once you get an opportunity to look at the whole budget packet, which you have now. It's also out in the town's website. In the past, what I've done is gone through each grouping, general government budgets, then I go through public safety budgets, education budget, DPW budgets, all in the general fund, and I'd answer any questions that you had. And then we would move to the enterprise funds and go through that in a similar fashion. I know that the town manager did a nice job the other night speaking before the council as he submitted his budget. I saw a number of members of the finance committee there, and that was great. So I don't want to be redundant. So let me just give you a broad brush, and then we can go from there and decide what additional information you might like this evening. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, broad brush. You have a balanced budget that has been submitted to you by the town manager. And the big news of the year for FY22 is we're able to balance this budget without using any of our stabilization funds. So those who were part of the FY21 budget know we needed approximately 1.6 million of our reserves in order to balance the budget. We were acting very conservatively at the time, because when we did vote the budget last year, we didn't have the final numbers from the state. We didn't know what was going to happen to local receipts around motor vehicle excise tax, around meals tax, room tax. We didn't know if building was, construction was going to stop. There were so many unknowns, so we're very, very conservative. And that's why we drew on our stabilization fund. the good news was when we closed the books for FY19, for FY20, we were able to replenish the stabilization fund in the amount that we took out, okay? So that put us on good footing as we entered into this budget cycle. So if you think about it, we were very, very conservative with our state revenue and our local receipts. Well, in the final hour of the budget season, the state ended up funding the town with more revenue, okay? That allowed us to be even more conservative in our local receipts. Our new growth number was solid last year. And so that put us in a position where we're heading into the end of FY21, where we believe that we're going to have some significant surplus dollars. We also believe that we're going to be able to use those for capital. But what have we found along the way? We found that the revenue in the area of motor vehicle excise tax, although down as a percent, especially the large commitment that was issued in February, that's the large motor vehicle excise, that was down around 3%. We thought, given the economic climate and what was going on and uncertainty, that was very encouraging. You know, we thought maybe might see 10 to 15%. On the meals and room tax, we thought we were going to see like a third, maybe, or maybe even I would say a little bit better than that, less than that. I'd say we were planning on like a 1/10 of the revenue. Well, we've achieved about 60 some odd percent to 70% of the revenue as the last look that I had on the meal side. All right, which says most of your meals tax is generated from takeout or fast food or areas where it isn't necessarily impacted by sit-down dining. There was room tax, so there were some individuals staying in the hotel out there by the NIP. So we were down quite a bit, but not as significant as we thought. So those were encouraging. And so when we looked across the board, we felt that we could move our local receipt numbers up by about $500,000 from where we had been very conservative last year. We am getting some good state numbers from the governor, all right? That puts us back to the tune about, I think it's a couple $100,000 in addition to last year. And then we had this year with and this is kudos to our assessor who's been working with our third-party assessing company. We have been able to capture our new growth roughly 6 months earlier than we had in the past because of the new procedures and practices we put in place. That allowed us to capture $1.5 million in new growth. That's the largest new growth figure in, I think, Bridgewater's history. I went back to 2002 and nothing comes close. And if new growth wasn't even close back then, it certainly wasn't a significant number prior to that. So if you take $1.5 million in new growth, although we have some offsets for our the DIF project that's being funded through new growth, that's a commercial project out on Elm Street, and I'll answer questions. And then you increase your local receipts by $500,000, then you increase your state aid by a couple hundred, and then you get your Proposition 2.5, $1.1 million. You get some significant shift in revenue from FY21 to FY22. It equates to about a 3.73% increase in budget and in revenue. That allowed us to fund the request of and I'll give you the highlights on the budget side. The town manager looking to increase the building maintenance budget to maintain the assets. He had talked about that over the last 3 years. We increased the expenses there, and we increased due to a market analysis to find the director. We know that we're going to have to pay a little bit more to get the director level. And that also then leaves a laborer level in that budget to help support the maintenance and repair, general repair of our buildings and some of our grounds. So that was a significant increase, significant in relationship to a 2.5 or a 3% increase. That was much more significant in that particular budgeted line in the general government. We moved down to public safety. There was 2 changes, one in police and one in fire. So there's been an additional patrolman added and 1 new cadet added in the budget presented by the town manager for the police department. On the fire side, there's a restructuring. One of the things that has become apparent, let me take a step back for the on the police side. There's 2 highlights I should make. One, the chief of police really has used this cadet program, which he has 2 already. This will make a 3rd. Is a great training and recruiting method, as well as having coverage at the desk, at the station. I believe that at least 2 of the cadets that have come through that program over the last few years, and it may be more, are moving on to the academy to become police officers. And the chief has spoken to myself and the town manager is recruiting folks to become police officers today is a challenging endeavor. It has some quality life challenges because of the shifts. So that's really a driver to the cadet program. And I'm sure he would speak to some more intricacies of that initiative. But I think that's a thrust. And the other one is more patrolmen in his arsenal to deploy and having more flexibility to cover and have the minimum manning be met when there's vacations and holidays and things when people are looking to take time off. And I can speak directly to the last negotiations we had with the police union. That's very important to them. The time off, the time away from that job to decompress is critical. And what the chief is seeing is that they are using that time off. And so to have another patrolman in the circuit, so to speak, not probably a good use of words, but in his rotation will allow those who need to take time off that they have coming to them, feel that they can, and he can deploy his resources as he sees fit. So it's really thought through and it's very strategic on his part, and the town manager certainly is in agreement and has recommended that change. On the fire side of the equation, he is still the acting chief, Mr. McDermott. What he has brought to the table, what he sees is necessary is the need for really the training aspect of the paramedics, and to have someone dedicated to that activity that's there, 40 hours a week on a Monday through Friday and can cover the shifts or do some off shift work. And their priority is going to be training. And then there's a code enforcement officer. So what the chief has found is, and it's in the industry itself, is they are in fact now fire prevention. I mean, the number of fires and emergency response, right? So the services that they allocate their time to, 70% of their time is spent on emergency response, 70 to 80%. The remaining is responding to, as you would put in the firefighting category. So with all the alarm systems that they are now, we're now needing to tie into at the fire station, and all the preventive inspections so that housings, multifamilies are meeting code, have become the critical, I think, I would just say it's really the focus of his attention that will allow him to do the work that the fire department needs to do to prevent fires and to ensure that codes are enforced and the buildings in the town of Bridgewater are maintained properly and safely. And to do that would be bringing on a code enforcement officer. So the total headcount change in the fire department would be 1. They would reduce the firefighter headcount from 40 to 39 and add 2 more positions, which would end up being a net of 1. So that's what they're recommending. What's good about it being this time, not only in the fire department and the police department, there's been a number of retirements. So you had your very high cost firefighters, meaning they're at their max step, they have max benefits. And in fact, when they retire, you bring in someone at a step 1, 2, or 3, or 4, then their cost of that particular paramedic firefighter is much less. So when we have done these types of restructuring, it's typically been when there's a number of retirements going on, both in the police department and in this case in the fire department. So that's the highlights there. The highlight on the in the DPW is in fact calling it a DPW, naming it a DPW, and hiring a DPW director, where some of the DPW director's costs are allocated to the general fund, some are allocated to water, some are allocated to sewer. And putting someone in that position that has that engineering background and can begin to look at things more long-term. I think you would say we were in a mode, and I think past some more seasoned FinCom members can speak to this, is in the past, we were just trying to putting out the fires, and we were just trying to plug holes and get a piece of equipment that didn't have a hole in the bottom of the truck. And we got out of that, and now we've gotten better equipment. We have some programs in place. We've increased expense lines so that the highway department and the roadways can do some maintenance. We've had some good Chapter 90 money. We're looking to bond some monies to do some major roadway improvements. And we're heading in that direction. We have a water treatment plant project going on. We have a sewer treatment project that's going to start. And we do have some major roadway work we want to take care of and drainage work in the town. This is the optimal time to bring in the right management necessary to run and manage that operation. And this budget supports that by increasing some expenses and also increasing the salary line to fund the portion of the DPW director's salary. So there's a highlight there. On the side of benefits, we have some very good news. The actual rate increase on health insurance is only 2.25%. But because we were budgeting very conservatively last year, we didn't know if we were going to have some layoffs. We didn't know if individuals who had an individual plan would jump onto a family plan because their spouse or their partner got laid off. So we were very conservative in our health insurance budgeted line. And because of that, and because of reduction in some of the stipends for those who, we used to provide a stipend for those who opted out of the health insurance, those individuals have retired. The net effect to the health insurance is flat. There's no increase. So that really helped us this year. The retirement Assessment went up approximately 8. This year, I think it was around 8%. And next year, our assessment will go up 6.5%. Those two drove the benefits up. But because the retirement is only a portion of our benefits, overall our benefits increased just about at the 3.73% revenue growth number. We did have some workers' comp experience rates that have driven up our workers' comp. Our mod rates were up slightly. And I think that summarizes on the benefit side of the equation what has changed. Those are the highlights that when you begin to look into the packet, you should be able to identify in those particular areas. And that's kind of it in a nutshell for the general fund. For those who have the order in front of them and they haven't seen an order like this before, you receive how it's going to be funded sheet, and then you receive the summary is how the council appropriates. You appropriate in those line items. And then the detailed package that you get will break it all out for you so you can tie it all back and understand what makes up that those amounts in those areas. If you see on the first page of the order, those funding sources there are identified specifically because those are transfers from other funds. The remaining portion that funds this budget are those 3 areas I mentioned: real estate, property tax, state aid, and local receipts. So everything else to support that budget of $65,206,678, less the county state charges that we actually have to raise on the recap. That's why we make the appropriated amount $64,791,096. All those dollars that are not identified in the $2,965,506 on page 1 of the order come from, as I said, property tax, state aid, local receipts. That's the general fund budget in summary.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Is that adequate and for you folks as of this point? As Nate has said, you're going to be able to delve into it and ask questions at our next meeting.
I know I'll certainly have a couple questions in the future here, Tony. Does anybody have a question about this right now, or?
Tony, you mentioned negotiations with the safety departments. Are they on a 2-year contract? And that's up next year, or when is that?
We're in the process of negotiating with all of our bargaining units right now. Police, fire, everyone. Nothing's, matter of fact, our first negotiation meeting with the police starts next week, and the fire will come after that. And we're in the process of our AFSCME. We will still have to do USW. All of them expire at the end of this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Nate, real quick for Tony, only because it comes up every budget season, right? So love what we just heard. It was great information, appreciate it. Where are we with the school?
We are in great shape with the school. We have had a series of meetings, number of meetings, and the number that they have published to us in their draft assessment document agrees 100% with our recommendation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom.
They also, just so you know, also working very closely with us on a capital, and they know that they're going to receive an order that will have capital items coming behind that for the spring, and another capital order in the fall. So we've worked our capital program. When you see it, we'll have all the schools' requests in it.
Excellent.
And Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, they came in significantly below what the original projections were for that, right?
For the school?
The school? Yep.
No, their request, I think, came in higher than what we had in our preliminary numbers in February. We had like 2.8. It ends up being like, I think, 3.28. It's $972,000. So what are you looking at, Chris? Maybe.
Oh, I guess I was thinking the new school.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the Mitchell School, the new school.
Yeah, I'm talking about something different, I guess. Yeah.
When it comes, when it comes to debt, their budget that's a highlight I should cover here. So the debt service for the new Mitchell School will begin in FY22. So the appropriation for debt service is going to go up about $2.5 million. The good news was and if someone's on that committee, they can speak to it better than I, but I know that the project came in, the bid came in much lower than they thought, number one. Number two, we've already gone out and bonded $35 million, of which we received a $1.9 million premium. The effective interest rate, I think, is around I don't want to misspeak. I think this is important I get this right. 1.598063. That's the effective interest rate. And the way that works is it's the rate on the bond, but that rate gets adjusted for the premium you receive, right? Because if you're going to get back $1.9 million to reduce what you need to borrow, that in fact affects your interest rate. So yes, there's good news on that. Is that what you were talking about, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tony, you said there was an increase for town buildings. Do you have a percentage of what that increase is, or?
If you want, I can pull up some of these documents and give percentages. I have no problem doing that. It's going to take me just a second. Okay, DPW. The total increase in public works is 6.75% over last year.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Okay, anything else for Tony on time for the general budget right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we will leave this open. Tony, if we want to talk about the FY22-002 Water Enterprise Fund budget, give us a quick...
I looked at all of the orders on these for the enterprise fund, water, sewer, transfer station, and golf. I think the biggest message is we have revenues that will sustain those operating budgets in all cases. On the water sewer side, we've never had a problem. Matter of fact, we're seeing a reduction in some of their budgets because we really did an analytical work this year to make sure whatever we were budgeting for salaries are based on positions. And we looked at historical expenses and we tightened up some of those numbers for both water and sewer. We also put considered some capital items for projection purposes in their operating budget. Because they in water and sewer, because they have the revenue stream to support that. They don't have to do what the town does, general fund, where we have to wait until the reserves are there in order to make an appropriation. They have the revenue stream built in. And this type of capital would be a piece of equipment. It might be a truck. It's not the pipes or pumping stations or anything that's of what you'd call infrastructure, whether it's vertical or horizontal infrastructure. So, and on the transfer station side, we're heading into the end of this year looking very good with the revenue. In the last couple of years, we had run into a little bit of a problem. The rates that were being charged or fees that were being charged weren't adequately supporting the operation. There's been changes to those. There's been two things that have happened in the transfer station enterprise fund. Number one, there used to be some real competition with curbside pickup and some of the pricing of one of the curbside pickups vendors that was operating in the town. That has since changed. And in fact, I think that that particular vendor is no longer operating. He tried to come in, or she tried to come in and lowball and capture the market, but they weren't successful. The Trojan, which is a transfer station over in Brockton, who used to charge $60 for the average homeowner to show up there with a truck, now charges, I think, a minimum of $140. So that has pushed a lot of the traffic back to the transfer station. And we're seeing, he's seeing a much higher footprint and traffic. And he's adjusted his rates. And so that's really going to balance his budget. And he will be putting in new rates again to make sure that he starts to build some surplus to begin to do some capital items over the next year and a half. So we're really, Michael and I and Rick, who does a great job over there, sat down and really looked at the costs and the revenue streams, and we're heading in the right direction there. On the golf side, we've had about a 13 or 14% increase in revenue once the COVID restrictions were increased. Golf in and of itself, because one of the few activities you can still do without any COVID restrictions now, except for social distancing when you go to check in and all that. But when you're on the course, you just need a social distance. Carts can be used. Carts are starting to go out tomorrow. So we are looking at that revenue to trend that way, at least 10% going forward. And we actually think we're going to have some reserves as a result of the end of this fiscal year. So we're looking positive there. And we're also doing some deep analytical work with a company that helps us analyze our operation to look at our cost structure and to make sure that our cost structure is appropriate and competitive. And we're going through that process right now. That's, I think, the summary. Water, sewer, good shape. Heads up on the water and sewer, because we're going to have a water treatment plant coming on board in a year or so. We will be coming back to you with the rate increase recommendations to offset the debt service. We've built reserves. We're looking to use some of those reserves so that we don't have to bond the full amount. We had some good news on the interest rates that we have. We had good news on interest forgiveness for the water plant. And so we'll be putting that together over the next couple of months so that you can see what we need to do in order to pay the debt for that project, as well as the CIP for the maintenance and or replacement of water lines throughout the town. And on the sewer side, that's still a little farther out. That's the sewer treatment plant, although that will be coming online sooner than, I guess sometimes you get wrapped up in the day-to-day. That will be here before we know it. And we will begin to address some of that in the fall of this coming year. But the day-to-day operations and the revenue streams can meet their salary, wages, benefits, and expense requirements. That's what I got on enterprise.
Good news.
Anybody have anything for Tony on the enterprise funds at the moment? Okay.
No,
Okay.
thank you, Tony.
You're welcome.
All right, so what's we get FY 22-007 CPA reserve accounts, Tony?
In that case, you could actually take action on this if you wanted to. So no, this is everything. So the way the CPA Community Preservation Act allowed the town of Bridgewater to enact a assessment, in essence, a tax under the Community Preservation Act. Those funds go into a special fund that are governed by special laws. The town of Bridgewater it's a 2% rate, but it's over, I think, $100,000 of value. And it could be slightly higher than that, but there's a base of your assessed value that's not part of the calculation. And then from that dollar on, it's 2%. And that 2% goes into this fund. The state also provides funds that come through the Registry of Deeds. So there's a fee collected at the Registry of Deeds that goes back to the state, and the state then allocates that to those communities that have adopted the Community Preservation Act. So in fact, the budget for the Community Preservation Act is made up of that revenue you generate from tax and the revenue that you generate from the state and any interest income. So the total amount that is budgeted for, that is expressed in this document before you, let me just pull it up so I have it. Okay, so we estimate $878,000 in revenue, $700,000 from the CPA surcharge, $175,000 for state match, and $3,000 for interest income. Now, by law, the amount of money that then needs to be put into the three buckets, the three buckets being reserves for community housing, reserve for open space, and reserve for historical reasons. So 10% is what they chose to place in those reserve accounts, and that's where the 87,800 comes in. So 87,800 is being placed in that. There is also $43,900 to be used for administrative expenses. And that can only be by law 5% of your revenue stream, thus the $43,900. So it's less. 43 is 86, 87, 87.8 is exactly 5%. That's where the 43.9 comes from. Then I'll skip over the 176 because you'll see that we back into that number. There's $354,600 for the debt that's being paid for out of this fund for the Academy building renovation, and $39,170 for debt payments related to the Keith Homestead purchase. So those are the debt obligations that the town entered into using CPA funds. The $176,930 is the balance amount that brings the total appropriations to the $878. So with this particular board, we're going back to the traditional way of budgeting, and it's in line with what they want to do, and it's in line with the general laws that govern how this fund needs to operate. So then there's a special appropriation to a budgetary reserve. So there's a budgetary reserve line that is placed, and it can only be used through an additional appropriation that would come through this body, through the town council. And if it's not used, it closes out to undesignated fund balance next year. So this vote appropriates $878,000 and puts those funds into these buckets. And this is within the guidelines of the general laws, municipal finance laws that oversee CPA.
That's my dog.
Roof.
Do you have a question, Julie? Tony, is the housing bucket still full?
Well, the housing bucket, one of the appropriations that the council, finance committee, CPC, the commission there approved was the McElwain building project.
Yep.
So that is a large chunk of money came from the undesignated, some came from undesignated and some came from housing. Because that was a great housing initiative that the town undertook. Let me just pull up that fund.
So is there something going on at the McElwain school?
The McElwain?
Is that housing that we discussed?
Oh yeah, there's a whole project.
Huh?
You want to speak to that, Eric? Want to refresh Nate's memory?
Well, I remember that, but I thought it didn't end up working out. That's why I'm asking, I guess.
Oh no, it did. And what it's really is a partnership between state, federal, local, and private. Okay. That's taking this property, and there's a housing element to it and a historical element to it.
Okay.
So it was really a good project. I'll let Eric speak to it.
Yeah, Eric, why don't you fill us? I'd appreciate an update if there is one.
No, well, no, I just, I can give you a little bit of context on it. Is if you remember, right? Like the conversation was tied to why'd we sell it so cheaply, and the obvious reasons were we had 13 people bid, and we took the best offer, right? And I think the other piece that a lot of folks within the town probably don't remember is because we own that building and it was in decrepit form, it was a huge insurance liability for the town. If God forbid anybody was to go into that and something happened to them. So we alleviated all that risk as well. What I'm not as familiar with is when the project actually started and the construction being underway.
It was I remember having the first conversations with these gentlemen that were going to be putting in their bid, I think in summer of 2017.
Yeah, I think that's probably, yeah.
And so right now, the way this is going to work is the town appropriated about gotta get the right amount here. Yeah, $1,345,000 to go in on this project. We'll get back around $600 and some odd thousand that will go into the town stabilization fund. All right. So we're using a net, if you will, of about, are we talking $700,000 of our money to turn something that would have cost us in the estimates to remediate and to remove the building in the millions, at least $1 million. And it's creating housing, it's maintaining a historic building, and the CPC funds have been used to support that. To your question, Nate, the roughly $250,000 is in each one of those reserve accounts: open space, historic preservation, community housing. But we also have, you know, monies in our undesignated in that fund. And the undesignated fund balance at the end of last year was one second. I do want to give you that last figure before I finish on this. $786 plus 7, that's $1,486,486 roughly.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tony. And yeah, I remember all the big long conversations we had, but haven't heard anything since then, and it doesn't look like too much is going on there. So,
well, really, it's all the hurry up and wait, and we know we're going to be getting a check in May, and when we get a check, they'll get a check, and then things will start to roll.
Okay, great. All right, yeah, and we digress a little bit now, Tony. Just real quick too, if I understand right, as more and more towns join the CPC or the CPA, then the state match will slowly decline, won't it, to all the towns?
Well, it actually just went up recently because the fees went up. So the registry fees, registry of deeds, I should say, went up, and as a result, this past year, we received from the state $197,458.
Okay.
So my estimate is conservative of 175.
Okay, thank you.
And that was down, I think the year before that, it was in the 160s, 150s.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions to Tony on the CPA reserve accounts? Now, I don't think we have to take action this evening, but as Tony said, we
do not have to.
So what would we like to do as a board? Do we want to hold this and just continue it over for now, or?
Yeah, since we're going to have a joint meeting, I mean, I'd love to hear what others have to say about things. And, and given that we're in a good position with timing, I think it makes all the sense in the world. No,
I agree, Eric. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, and I think we just had one more thing here, Tony, if you want to speak to it real quick. FY 22-006, authorization of revolving funds.
Oh, yeah. So annually, this is a particular chapter of the general law that requires an annual recertification, if you will, that the town intends to maintain these revolving funds. They're not large. I'm pulling that up right now. Okay. So the town clerk will receive some funds for sale of street lists, for sale of when make copies of bylaws, zonings, subdivision rules, any of the documents that she has to publish, and she can take in a fee for up to $5,000 goes into that particular fund. The recreation director takes in fees associated with recreation benefits, recreation programs, salaries, wages, and benefits, and facility expenses and so forth, up to 150,000, and the COA fees and rentals up to $5,000, and they are used to offset or defray the costs of providing that program. And it's an annual requirement under General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 53E and 1/2.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Does anybody have any questions for Tony on the revolving funds at this point? Okay, so I think we'll hold this one too, as we will have the joint meetings coming up here in the near future. One thing, if we have nothing else, does anybody have anything else? Okay, one thing I just wanted to bring up, when Tony and I were speaking with each other one time, Tony was very gracious to offer, especially for newer members. If you have any questions, I'm not talking specifically about the budget right now, because we'll all have the chance to discuss the budget. But maybe, you know, unfunded capital, things like that. Tony is willing to meet with you one-on-one to discuss, you know, a specific thing or a specific item or how things work or funded. And like I said, this is, you know, mainly aimed towards some of our newer members here that might have, you know, specific questions as they try to, you know, get their hands wrapped around this big giant thing that's municipal finance here. So thank you, Tony, for doing that. And
No problem.
if anybody would like to take advantage of that, you can reach out to Tony. I just ask that you CC me too. You can reach out to Tony directly at his town address.
Perfect.
Okay, and if nobody else has anything else, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. And thank you very much, everybody. It's been a long night.
Julie, I have one question. Kathy Blaze resigned, correct? So we have another opening?
We do.
Is that correct?
That is, yep. She did resign. I don't know why really. I was just CC'd on her email to the town manager. It also means, thank you for bringing that up, actually, Julie. And it also
anyone knows anybody?
Yep. And, you know, she was our liaison to the GMES also too. So please let me know if you're interested in taking over that. I think it was important that we had somebody listening in on those conversations. So if you are interested in taking that over, please let me know. And what kind of appointment was Kathy? Do we know?
You mean whose appointment?
Yeah. Was she town manager?
I think she was town manager, but I really want to, I would say we got to check with Michael, but I thought she was town manager.
Okay. Yep. And back to Julie's point, you know, if anybody knows anybody that would like to serve and has a dedication and wants to serve their fellow citizens here in town, let me know. Okay, again, everybody, thank you very much. It's been an hour and a half here.
I'll just do it formally, Nate. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, next.
Eric.
And second, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. Josh, we can get a roll call.
Nate.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Leah.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Susie.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion was approved. Meeting's adjourned.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Welcome.
Thanks, Tony.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Everybody.